Hey everyone, Miss Janine here. Let's take a look at what are some of the questions going to be, some of the things you need to study for the final exam. It's going to be here before you know it. It is going to be due Monday night at 11:59. I'm scrolling through here. It's 96 multiple choice questions with one essay. I would say probably half to 2/3 of the questions are from tests you've already had. Test 1, Test 2. The rest are from information that were, the last part. So I'm just going to kind of read through, I guess, some of the questions or tell you some of the keywords I want, areas you need to make sure you know. Alrighty, blank is the science of understanding individuals and animals as well as people. Blank is the science of understanding individuals, animals as well as people. James has received his training in medicine and has an MD degree. That's medical degree. A lot of my seated class students missed that one when it was on test 1. In addition to offering therapy, he can prescribe meds. Based on this information, it can be concluded that James is a psychiatrist. An MD, or I should say a psychiatrist, is an MD who then went on to study psychiatry. So make sure you don't miss that one. It was, like I said, very commonly missed. And then I would get text messages. I know I had it right. And I'm like, no, you didn't. Which, excuse me, which of the following questions is most likely to be answered by a personality psychologist? Subset of a population is called remember, we had your population could be college students, and then your sample could be coastal students. And then if we brought it even tinier, it could be general psychology students or online psychology. Or if our population was coastal gen psych, the sample for you would be an online student. So a subset of a population is called a sample. Blank can be defined as studies in which neither the participant nor the researchers administering the treatment know who has been assigned to which experimental condition. Double-blind study. You're going to want to know information transmitted between neurons by means of chemicals is called information transmitted between neurons by means of chemicals called blank. Neurotransmitters. Excuse me. Junction between the axon and adjacent neuron is known as the what? Blank structures are important to emotion and motivation. Going back to the brain, children and teenagers are act more impulsively than adults because blank is not fully developed. Frontal lobe sound familiar? Frontal lobe. Make sure you know what the frontal lobe does. Blank is an act of organizing and interpreting sensory information. You're going to want to know perceptual constancy. That was the item where if you see a car, you know a car up close is a certain size. You see it, down the street, half a mile, and it's real tiny, but you know it still has the same shape, same size. Perceptual constancy. Human body's natural painkillers are called endorphins. If a mother contracts an infection such as the flu at 4 to 6 months of pregnancy, this can increase the chance that the child will develop schizophrenia later in life. Schizophrenia. With learning and experience, certain synaptic connections become stronger, where those that do not receive stimulation from the environment die off. This is known as pruning. Sound familiar? You're also going to want to know theory of mind. Blank marks the beginning of adolescence. What is the blank? Anterior cingulate will show the strongest activities when talking on a cell phone, texting, or being exposed to violent video games. The monitoring of information from the environment and from one's own thoughts is termed intelligence, awareness, wakefulness, or memory. What does the term preconscious refer to? What does REM stand for? When does sleepwalking usually occur? The main explanation for the blank effect is that items at the beginning of a list are quickly rehearsed and transferred to long-term memory storage. Blank effect is that the items at the beginning of a list are quickly rehearsed and transferred to long-term memory storage. Which cortex is located in the temporal lobe? Learning occurs when information moves from when to when or from where to where. What did Skinner conclude about the effectiveness of reinforcements in punishment? Which of the following refers to a mental group of objects, events, or people? Schema, heuristic, concept, or abstraction. Which of the following is true to the context of learning a non-native language? Children under 6 who learn to speak a second language will learn more quickly than adolescents. Or adults learn to speak a second language more quickly than children. Individuals who learn to speak a second language earlier than 12 will probably speak it with an accent. Which of the following, again, is true in the concept of learning a non-native language? When did theories of intelligence start emerging? We're looking for what time period. Who is credited with developing the first theory of intelligence? Spearman, Gardner, Freud, or Pavlov? Charles Spearman's theory of intelligence is known as what? Which of the following best describes Cattell's theory of intelligence? Intelligence has 3 factors. Intelligence comprised of 2 parts. Intelligence is a function of 8 distinct skills. According to Sternberg's theory, the elements of successful intelligence are what? You're going to want to name the 3 items that Sternberg talks about. Sternberg's theory is also known as, remember with Sternberg, everything is 3, the triarchic theory of intelligence. Which of the following theorists theorized that intelligence consists of 8 distinct capabilities? Binet, Sternberg, Gardner, or Pavlov? What are current IQ tests based on? What is the difference between the whisk and the waist? Remember, one's for children, which is for adults. You're going to need to know which is used for children and which is used for adults. According to Piaget, which of the following is true? Cognitive abilities are inborn and do not change. Cognitive abilities of young children are the same as those of adults. Both children and adolescents can reason abstractly, or cognitive abilities develop in stages rather than gradually. Piaget, what's he known for? Stages of development. If a pregnant lady drinks excessively, her child runs the risk of having Down syndrome, fetal alcohol syndrome, Fragile X syndrome, or Asperger's syndrome. In blank is a disorder of the X chromosome resulting in abnormal development of a gene involved in neural development. You're going to want to be familiar again with Down syndrome, Asperger's syndrome, Fragile X, and X-linked hypophosphatemia. Be sure you look at Fragile X syndrome. A person is usually gifted if he or she has an IQ in the range of what? So you're going to want to know the IQ ranges. Patrick has been tested to have an IQ of 32, but he plays the piano exceptionally well. Excuse me. Sorry. Patrick suffers from Down syndrome, Asperger's syndrome, or Savant syndrome. Be familiar with savant syndrome. Go back and revisit that. Which of the following is true of algorithms? Go back to this section on algorithms. Blank is defined as the urge to move towards one's goals. Emotion, motivation, deprivation, or perception. Blank are inherent states of cellular or bodily deficiency that compels drives. I want to take a look at incentives, needs, emotions, and moods. Which of the following pushes us into action? A drive, an incentive, a rule? Drives come from blank environment, while incentives come from blank environment. So look that one up. Are we talking about external, internal, biological, external, institutional, personal? Drives come from blank environment, while incentives come from blank. In the blank model of motivation, all organisms are motivated to maintain physical equilibrium around an optimal set point, the ideal fixed setting of a personal physiological system. Make sure you look at drive reduction model, drive reduction theory. You're going to want to look at self-actualization. The blank regulates all basic physiological needs. Are we looking at the hypothalamus, the amygdala, or the hippocampus? When body's blood sugar level drops, the blank triggers the drive to obtain food. Frontal lobe, hypothalamus, or hippocampus? How is the body mass, BMI, determined? Who among the following were the first to conduct a direct study of human sexual response? That's Masters and Johnson, William Masters, Virginia Johnson. According to Masters and Johnson, which of the following is the correct sequence of the human sexual response in the ascending order? Go back to the section with Masters and Johnson and look at the human sexual response. You're going to be looking for excitement, plateau, orgasm, and resolution. Which of the following statements is true of male sexual behavior? You don't want to look in there and look at brain regions that are being discussed and the difference between homosexual men and heterosexual men. The need for affiliation corresponds to the blank level of needs in Maslow's hierarchy. Let's see. You're going to look at extrinsic motivation, intrinsic motivation. Know the definitions. Which of the following is more important for extrinsic than intrinsic? Might be reward. Double check that. Let's see. Paul is trekking along a hillside when he comes across a bear. He's frightened and tries to find the best way to escape. Which of the following system is responsible for Paul's emotional reaction? Sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, immune system, or cardiovascular? Sympathetic or parasympathetic, or immune or cardiovascular? Part of the brain that plays a pivotal role in quick appraisals during threatening or fear-inducing situations is the corpus callosum, thalamus, hippocampus, or amygdala. Rebecca is extremely jealous of her brother earning a full college scholarship, yet she knows she has to act happy. Her behavior is an example of, look up display rules. Why has the concept of emotional intelligence been so readily applied to the field of education? Emotional intelligence, go to that section. Look up stress. The social readjustment rating scale, who designed that? It's on the left side of a page. There's a figure there. Social readjustment rating scale, SRRS. Who is coined with creating that? The blank consists of all the neurons that serve the organs and glands and plays a crucial role in the stress response. Autonomic nervous system, endocrine system, immune system, or lymphatic system. Again, go look in the section on stress. Which of the following are key structures in the neurocrine regulation of stress response? Again, look at the regulation of the stress response. What area plays a pivotal role in memory? Stress-related cortisol release causes hippocampal dendrites to shrink, which can interfere with vision, memory, reasoning, or hearing. Again, stress-related cortisol, what does it impact? Blank refers to anything people do to deal with or manage stress or emotions. Secondary appraisal, primary appraisal, disclosure, or coping. Blank combines problem-focused and emotion-focused coping strategies. Secondary appraisal, social support, emotional disclosure, or primary appraisal. Know the definition of resilience. What does research on exercise suggest? How can mindful meditation help a person? What category does alcohol fall in? Remember, alcohol is a depressant. Infants born to mothers who experienced an unusual amount of stress during pregnancy tend to have higher baseline levels of stress hormones. Look at collectivism. Which of the following psychologists founded the movement known as psychoanalysis? Sigmund Freud, right? Psychoanalysis, Freud. Carl Jung, the collective unconscious is made up of what? Which are ancient or archaic images that result from common ancestral experiences. Archetypes, no archetypes. With Jung, also with Jung, no the shadow. Karen Horney, psychoanalytic theory focused more on what than did Freud's. Carl Rogers described a person as psychologically well-adjusted if he or she did what? Which of the following theories assumes that dispositions are the major forces behind personality? You might want to look at some trait theories. Social loafing, don't forget that. Diffusion of responsibility, conformity, norms, social norms. Remember the term Confederates, the people who are part of the experiment, but nobody else knows that they're part of it. Confederates, they're actually working on the experiment. Be familiar with that term. Stanley Milgram, his study in obedience emerged in response to Nazi officers following orders during World War II, sexual repression of women in the Victorian era, studying PTSD or juvenile delinquents in the 80s or 90s. Stanley Milgram, social psychologist, obedience study, emerged why? Bandura's Bobo doll study demonstrated what? In the famous murder of Kitty Genovese, none of the witnesses to her stabbing came to her aid. Psychologists later termed this phenomena the bystander effect. Remember the bystander effect. The more people present, the less likely somebody's going to help because they think everybody else is going to help. Pheromones are scents produced by animals that have effect on other members of the same species. Sternberg's triangular theory of love. Companionate love exists when? And then we've got a essay question. And as teasing my morning class, they're going to be remembering this and having nightmares every time they hear essay. Name at least 4 neurotransmitters, their function, and why we should care. And that was a almost 20-minute review of the final exam. So everyone have a great day and keep working, keep studying. You will have only 60 minutes. That's what my seated class gets, 60 minutes. So you got to study, you got to know this stuff. Talk to you later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.